Great to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Vedran, and I would like to present part of the work that I'm engaged with several other colleagues, which is on emergent and open systems delivery models that we are currently working on. I mean, it's been part of several years of research, and this presentation here is just one particular part of it. So I've been working on this with my colleagues Maria Gradillas-Garcia and Francesco di Maddaloni. And this particular piece is on shared governance and joint value creation for interorganizational projects. So in other words, the kind of intersection between shared governance and how the inclusion of different actors that typically are not part of the core project organization in a delivery sense leads to novel and emergent types of value being created. So the starting point is just kind of a few building blocks. The first one is the idea of projects as temporary interorganizational cooperative settings. Multiple actors, multiple parties get together to deliver on an agreed objective, so they can then disband and go and do other things. So this kind of meta-organization concept of a project. The second one is the project governance discourse and the acknowledgement that there's an increasing number of important stakeholders and actors that need to be taken into consideration in the organizing effort and setting of a project. So the idea of shared governance. And then the third one is the idea of joint value creation, which is again the idea that the inclusion of various types of actors will lead to shared value creation. So it's very much in line of the discussions on stakeholder engagement and embracing the principle of inclusive governance. So the problem research question is that, starting from the acknowledgement that, stakeholder theory is recognizing the challenge, the dilemma, and the problem that is faced in those types of multi-actor, multi-party settings between pursuing individual interest by stakeholder group as opposed to joint value creation. So there's this kind of a dilemma happening there. And then the intersection between stakeholder governance as one distinct area of domain of research and practice, and then joint value creation as another one, and then trying to argue for the intersection. We kind of get to the research question of how does a shared form of governance create joint value for participants in interorganizational project settings. So this is, as I said, based on several years of research that we've looked at, value creation and capture in project delivery settings. And this particular piece is based on one specific project, which is a project by the Dutch Highways and Waterways Agency. It's called Room for the River. We've done quite a lot of interviews and examined some secondary data and documentation on this project. So it's a qualitative research approach, inductive and qualitative, and it allowed us to argue for. So what we saw when we spoke to these people and discussing with them is that there was this emergent particular type of governance structure that enabled a value creation that we didn't see in other types of projects. And this was all about what we, in this instance, in this iteration of this research, frame as polycentric governance, is the inclusion of different types of stakeholders and actors. You wouldn't normally find them in the delivery context of a project into the governance structure that then allows a more inclusive type of value creation and more emerging types of value that are being created. So this type of polycentric governance model is creating value, additional types of value on top of the ones which are designed and planned for the project, which are based on incorporating stakeholder knowledge and capability. So making the project organizational boundary, as it were, extending it so that it includes and it absorbs several other stakeholders that wouldn't normally be part of the delivery. Empowering those actors and stakeholders in a way that they can have a say, they can influence the decision, various types of decisions for the project, and then creating these dedicated spaces almost where this type of decision making is possible, as opposed to the decisions which are in the core remit of the project organization, which obviously do not have that co-creation space allowed for them. What we also found is that it leverages economies of scope and scale for the project in a way that, if there would be a local community group, for instance, that would come in with a specific interest of a output for the project that would be of a great benefit for that group, and it only comes at a marginal cost for the project, then there would be the governance mechanisms and decision-making processes to accommodate for that type of decision to be absorbed into the project. So these are the types of things that we saw, and we thought, this is really something that's interesting, and we should be looking into it more thoroughly. So, so these are the types of value creation that are being like the benefits of this type of shared governance model, which is more inclusive than the kind of traditional type of governance. Which, however, also creates difficulties. And of course, it's, obviously the more actors are being included in the governance structure and in the decision-making, it creates frictions. Different actors are brought in with different agendas, and there will need to be obviously a compromise or a consensus before the next step can be taken, which creates a lot of difficulty. So there is a need for compromise and coordination, and there is a need for organizations. Here we are thinking typically of the client organization to develop capabilities that allow this type of integration of knowledge and inclusive shared governance model, which obviously creates difficulties in its own right. And then the second part of it is that, and we didn't find that from the data, this is just kind of us hypothesizing that it would involve a certain type of shared and distributed leadership models to allow for these various groups of stakeholders to be involved in the shared governance model and develop delivery systems which are more inclusive and more effective ultimately for all of their participants. So this is the little piece of our broader area of research that I wanted to discuss today. It's very much work in progress. Currently, we're looking for angles, for conceptual and theoretical angles to frame the phenomenon that we think is worthwhile pointing out. And so any comments, any questions, any ideas that would help us in this endeavor would be much appreciated. Thank you very much.